All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we react to Kyle Shanahan's latest media appearance on Sirius XM, as well as talk about some of the transactions of the day in 49er land as the Niners boarded the bird for Las Vegas, where tomorrow they will train with the Raiders in Las Vegas and Thursday in Las Vegas. The Raiders and Niners training. And then, of course, that's in advance of Saturday afternoon's Niners-Raiders preseason game number 2. All right, let's share the screen because Kyle Shanahan stopped by on Sirius XM. And this is all courtesy of Coach Yak's Twitter. So thank you, Coach Yak, for letting us pilfer this off of your Twitter. Big fans of Coach Yak. Here's Kyle Shanahan talking a little bit about, his thoughts on this upcoming season, and then we'll comment on them next. I think these are very interesting comments from Shanahan. We'll talk about it next. Here's Kyle.
When we got here in 17, we knew we had a roster that we really had to completely change over. And, in the first year, we changed 10 out of 11 guys on offense. Joe Staley was the only one who remained. And on defense, we did 8 out of 11. So we had a big turnover, and we did it all with we did it all with draft picks. And to me, you don't hit on every draft pick, but we hit on a lot, and we got some difference makers in there. And that kind of became the core of our group from 19 all the way till now. And we brought in a couple of different people with Christian and Trent that we did through trades. But everyone else has kind of been homegrown and through the draft. And fortunately, we've been able to keep some of those guys. And that's, to me, the biggest difference between now and 17 is that some of these guys that have been here are still here. And we got a group of players, whether it's 5, whether it's 7, whatever it is, that are different makers, some borderline Hall of Fame players too. But when you look at the rest of the roster, that's what reminds me a little bit more of 17 and 18, that we need to add a bunch of youth. We need to get guys who are younger, so obviously we can afford to keep some of these players, also having to pay a quarterback and things like that. So whenever that happens, you do depend on young guys. But when you get young guys, it also makes it a little bit more built to last. And we're kind of in between in those areas, because when you got guys like Christian, guys like Trent, Bosa, Fred, there's a number of them. It's hard to kind of say that you're rebuilding, because you got guys there who can carry you. But in the NFL, it doesn't matter how good those stars are. You got to have the right type of team. And we know we got some young guys that haven't done it yet. But that's what's so big about this year. Is what's so big about camp is we're finding out a lot about these guys every day. And it'll be interesting who ends up being a part of our 53, which to me is more open now than it's been in about 6 years. But even on day one, that's not going to be it. Like week 1, I expect our team in week 12, week 13 to look a lot different than it did in week 1. And my whole goal is that we get better throughout the year and find a way to hopefully get into those playoffs. And once you get into those playoffs, then you got a chance at anything.
All right, so there you go. And I guess, there are some people that are probably pushed out of shape by these comments from Kyle Shanahan. I actually find them to be refreshing. Let's be real. You know what? If you can't be honest about sports, what can you be honest about? All right. I think some people, want to hear him say, you know what? We're a Super Bowl contender. And, we're always going to be a Super Bowl contender, and that's it. And that's our standard, and that's what we expect. And, you can take these kinds of approaches and just be like, oh, this is our approach. This is our standard. And that's great to have a standard like that. But I think he's being honest. It's like it's a reload of this roster. But at the same time, you still have 7 or 8 core players that are part of, your team. And as far as, hey, we're going to get better as the season goes on, I think that just makes sense. You're going to, you're not going to have Brandon Ayuk until later in the year. So he's one of your best players. So I would say you're going to be better after you get Brandon Ayuk back. That would be the natural thought, right? That you're not going to have Ayuk early, but you're going to get him back, and he's one of your best players. But, you think about this team. It's a young team. But it has scattered, veterans throughout. At receiver, they have Juwan Jennings. At offensive line, they have Trent Williams. At tight end, they have George Kittle. At quarterback, they have Brock Purdy. At running back, they have Christian McCaffrey. At fullback, they have Kyle Juszczyk. So they have some veteran players that are among the best players at their position. Same thing on defense. They have Nick Bosa. They have Fred Warner. They have Demo Lenore. You can make an argument that those three guys are right there with the best players at their position in the league. So you have some real core players, but then surrounding those core players, it's a complete rebuild with a lot of young players, and I think that they ought to just take it slow. I mean, try to his idea of, hey, look, we're going to be better as the year goes on. We hope to get into the playoffs. They have on paper a very favorable schedule, and I think they will get into the playoffs. I think it'll be a huge disappointment if they're not in the playoffs, despite the fact they have a very young football team. So we're going to find out how good they are across the board. We're also going to find out what kind of coaching staff this is. ESPN.com lists the Niners coaching staff as the third best in the sport. Kansas City being the best, Minnesota being the second best, and the Niners coaching staff being the third best. All right, well, we're going to find out if that's true. If they are the third best coaching staff, then they should get better as the season goes on, because there's young, burgeoning talent at every position across the board. The 49ers have about 20 draft picks or undrafted free agents in this camp, many of whom are going to make this team. So, I mean, just looking at the 49ers from afar, I would say, Jordan Watkins has already shown some really good things. Junior Bergen had a nice return the other day. Connor Colby and Drew Moss were two of the most highly rated 49ers in that Denver game. So maybe the Niners have their guard of the future in Colby and their center of the future in Moss. Corey Kiner looks real. He's a rookie. Jordan James, before he got hurt, also was having a good camp. On the defensive line, Mikael Williams, CJ West, Alfred Collins, Sebastian Valdez. I mean, you got four guys and four rookies in your defensive front line that have all kind of shown up. And in Valdez's case, he's really been a huge, pleasant surprise. So you got four rookies on that D-line alone. At linebacker, you got Nick Martin and Stone Blanton. They both look really good. In the secondary, you have Jacob Robinson. You have Derek Canteen. You have Upton Stout. You have Marquise Siegel. You also have young players that have yet to come of age, like Darrell Luter, Tatum Bethune. I mean, you've got young players throughout this roster. Robert Beal, Kalia Davis, young players that the arrow's pointing up. So I get what Shanahan's saying. He's trying to, kind of temper expectations. Is it a favorable schedule? Sure. But if you think the Niners with, all these young players are going to just rampage the entire season and rampage the schedule, think again. It's going to be a grind. They went 1-5 in their 6 division games last year. They're going to play 6 absolute knockdown, drag-out wars between the Cardinals, Rams, and Seahawks. So none of those games are easy. Do they have 5 or 6 gimmies on their schedule? Yeah, they should. Carolina at home and the Bears and some of these, they should beat these teams, but they're NFL teams. And anybody can beat anybody. So I think he's just trying to temper expectations. I think he's trying to be a little bit more realistic that, when you come out of camp with this many rookies, if you're going to go with these rookies, there's going to be some lumps. And I think they ought to go with the rookies. I did my 53-man roster breakdown today. And, I have them going. I have Bergen making the team. I have Colby and Moss making the team. I have Corey Kiner making the team. I have all those young defensive linemen, rookie defensive linemen, Mikael Williams, Alfred Collins, CJ West, Sebastian Valdez. I have them all making the team. Jacob Robinson, Marquise Siegel, Upton Stout, Nick Martin. I've got all those guys on the team. So it's going to be a young team. And they're going to get better. They're going to get better. That's the way it goes in the NFL. There's no shortcut. There's no, meteoric rise to the top. I mean, for every guy who has that kind of a career trajectory, everybody else, gets better incrementally. So I think this is just Shanahan saying, hey, look, the goal is to make the playoffs. It doesn't matter how many wins. This is a developmental year in a lot of ways. It's a developmental year, albeit one where the Niners have a favorable schedule. But I think it has to be repeated. The last two teams that had the NFL's easiest schedule, according to record, wound up with losing seasons. So you wind up with the schedule that you have for a reason. And yes, it looks very favorable, but that's projecting the Niners to be the Niners of old. In reality, they may start Upton Stout, Marquise Siegel, Nick Martin, Mikael Williams, Alfred Collins, CJ West. I mean, they could have 6 starters on D, 6 rookie starters on D. And if you want to go with new starters, they could have as many as like 9 new starters on D. So it's a lot of turnover. It's a lot of turnover. And I like a lot of these players, but it's not a straight line to the top. Everybody's not a precocious rookie that steps in and dominates. Heck, Jerry Rice needed a period of time where he adjusted to the NFL. So it's only normal for these rookies to need that time. I actually found Shanahan's candor and honesty refreshing. I really do. He's not sitting there going, we will rule this league. Our standard is our standard. That's just rah high school Harry crap. That's not real. If you're going to be real, if you're going to be the leader of men, you have to be honest and you have to be real. You have to shoot the guys straight. And if you really want to have respect of the fans and the media, you got to shoot the fans and the media straight too. And that's what I really like about Kyle Shanahan is I don't think he likes lying. I think he wants to shoot people straight. I think he wants to tell you his honest thoughts on his football team. And I think he's being honest here. Hey, you know what? We got a lot of young guys. The only difference between now and 2017, when the Niners were really bad, was that they have a core that's really damn good, right? I mean, if you go back to the first year of the regime, they didn't have Demo Lenore. They didn't have Fred Warner. They didn't have Nick Bosa. They didn't have Trent Williams. They didn't have Brock Purdy. They didn't have CMC. They didn't have George Kittle. They didn't have any of those guys. Or they did have Kittle in the first year, but he was a rookie. So, I mean, you got 7 or 8 established stars, NFL stars that you didn't have before. But you're trying to win with a handful of stars and possibly as many as 15 or 16 rookies on your active roster. So that's going to put a premium on coaching, and it's going to put a premium on health. A lot of young players aren't used to playing a lot of games. And there's lots of different ways to look at it. Shanahan said, hey, I want to see us get better as the year goes on. But a lot of rookies in the NFL can only play half a season. So the question is, do you play the first half and then get hurt and not play the second half? Or do you sit out the first half and play the second half? There are very few guys. I mean, Dom Pooney kind of spoke to it early in camp. He said, man, when we got to like November, I was kind of taxed. I was kind of done because I'd never played that many games in my life, and my body wasn't used to it. My mind wasn't used to it. And he goes, I just didn't feel like I played myself down the stretch. I think I can do a whole lot better this year. So, it's like doubling up in football, maybe even tripling up. These guys, they're on a team that plays 10, 12 games. Maybe they play 6 or 7 of those 10, 12 games. Now you come into the NFL. There's 3 preseason games. There's joint practices. Then there's 17 regular season games. Now you're at 20. If you make the playoffs like the Niners hope to and you play in the wild card round, you may have as many as 23 football games. And that's, there's only so many football games in a player's body. The average college player probably plays like 10 to 13 games. And now all of a sudden they're playing, maybe 23 games. So it's a huge difference. It's a huge difference. And of course the game is infinitely more physical and complex. It's mentally and physically taxing at this level. So, but I liked it. I like what Shanahan said. because he's real and he's being honest. And he knows he's got IU coming back. He knows he's going to have some guys down at the beginning of the year. Kevin Givens, maybe Yatir Gross-Matos, Jordan James, maybe Jordan Watkins, obviously Ayuk, maybe Garendo. They're either going to have guys just coming back from injury or guys that aren't quite back. So, yeah, I think it makes sense that as the rookies kind of gain their footing, as the roster, as they discover more players, they're going to take a chance on a lot of young players on the waiver wire. Most are going to bomb, but some are going to succeed. And, I think it makes sense that if you make good decisions personnel wise, and you get guys back from injury, that, there's a very good chance that your rookies can help you progress to the point where you make the playoffs. All right, so that's what Shanahan said, and I thought it was. I once again, I liked it. I thought it showed great candor. Let's talk about some of the other moves today. The Niners officially announced the signing of wide receiver Malik Turner, and to make room on the roster, they placed Bradley Anai on the injured reserve. It's a rough break for Anai, who had made some plays in the preseason game. He had 3 pressures. He assisted on a pair of tackles. He was the Niners' second highest graded run defender behind Chase Lucas, according to PFF. So now this move effectively ends his season. So the Niners are really banged up, and now the depth at the edge rusher position is taking another hit. And I becomes the 5th edge rusher who's injured on the 49ers roster. So, this is a problem. Let's share the screen real quick and show you the roster. And it's just, there we go. Wrong button. There we go. Here is the Niners depth chart, and we'll share the screen here. This is the defensive side of the football. So you got Nick Bosa and Mikael Williams. Williams is down right now. Then you got Bryce Huff. You have Yatir Gross-Matos. Matos is down right now. You have Robert Beal. You have Sam Aquinu. Aquinu's hurt right now. He's working out on the side. That's 3. You have Jonathan Garvin, Trevis Gibson, Jalen Allen, all at defensive end. So, this is you typically need 10 defensive linemen, 5 defensive ends, 5 defensive tackles. So figure Bosa, Mikael Williams, and Bryce Huff will be 3. So the Niners need to come up with 2 more. Say Sam Aquinu's one of them. So they really need to find one more guy out of Yatir Gross-Matos, Robert Beal, Jonathan Garvin, Jalen Allen, out of the UFL, Trevis Gibson. I would probably lean to Gibson at this point. But the Niners also added some 2 edge rushers today. They signed 2 different edge rushers. The first guy they signed, I told you they signed Malik Turner. Malik Turner just had a great run with the Michigan Panthers in the UFL. He had 365 yards, 4 touchdowns. In the postseason alone, he had 269 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's been a Niner in 2 other years. So they're adding another body. It's more of a camp body in Malik Turner. But the 49ers also added a couple of defensive linemen today, and we'll go through that here. William Bradley, let's see. We'll go through exactly who they added here. But they really needed help on their defensive line because they have so many injuries. And the bottom line is, they need reinforcements, constant reinforcements, and they got some help today. They signed 1 edge rusher, William Bradley King, Aaron Wilson reporting that, and they also signed Damone Harris. So they signed 2 defensive ends today. They worked out Keyshawn Banks, William Bradley King, and Damone Harris, and then signed Harris and William Bradley King. Now, I think William Bradley King is kind of an interesting player. He's a Kansas City kid who, finished up at Baylor. And he started off at Arkansas State, transferred to Baylor as a grad student in 2020. And then he was honorable mention all Big 12. He had 31 tackles, 5.5 for loss, 3.5 sacks, 4 pass breakups, 9 games, 8 starts. So interesting player. He was second team All Sun Belt Conference in 2018. I saw him in some of the All-Star games. I really liked him. He accepted an invitation to the Senior Bowl, and I saw him working out at the Senior Bowl. Grad transfer, high football IQ, savvy rusher, great motor. To me, he's not the rawest rusher. He's got some moves, he's got active hands, strong upper body for sure. Not the twitchiest guy ever, and it's like he's the burst is not elite. He doesn't have an elite burst. But man, he really stepped in college and did a nice job and looked good in the All-Star game, circuit leading into the draft. So, I think William Bradley King is an interesting prospect. 6'3", 252, big hands, 10 and a quarter inch hands, 33-inch arms. I think he's interesting. He's got some talent. There's no question. Damone Harris, not as much. I think of him as a guy who's been on a bunch of different teams and he's floated around. I think Harris is more of a camp body. I think William Bradley King might actually make a run at a roster spot. This is kind of a bummer because Anai, I think, was a sleeper candidate for that fifth defensive end spot. Trevis Gibson does have experience in the NFL, and he's got some good length and some good size, good explosion. Jalen Allen is an undersized guy out of the UFL. Garvin, I think, is just a guy. Robert Beal is big, strong, fast, doesn't get a lot done. So to me, it's Bosa, Mikael Williams, Bryce Huff, Sam Aquinu, and then probably Yatir Gross-Matos will be the fifth guy if he gets healthy. If he doesn't get healthy, I would say it's probably Trevis Gibson who's going to get that. But I do think William Bradley King is going to show up. And I think he's going to play at a pretty decent level. And I think people are going to like what they see from William Bradley King. So it's an interesting signing for the 49ers for sure. And, he's a guy who, has some athleticism, has some talent, has had some success. He's never really gotten a real opportunity to do it in the NFL. He hasn't really ever, gotten an opportunity to really step in and play. And I'm really looking forward to what he looks like in the preseason. Because he's an explosive edge rusher. He's got some natural traits. He's heavy hands, good motor. 7th round pick by Washington in the 2021 draft. So I like his bull rush. I think he's a strong player. He needs some tutelage for sure to become a little bit more well-rounded, but he's strong. He plays with heavy hands, a great motor. I think he's good at setting the edge in the run game. And I think there's developmental traits there as a pass rusher that I really like. So is he a 3-4 outside linebacker? Maybe. I'm eager to see what he looks like in this 4-3 wide 9 where you just can attack and get up the field and hunt quarterback. So William Bradley King, he'll be a guy to watch for, one of the guys to watch for at least when the Niners take on the Raiders on Saturday afternoon. So a little breakdown right there on the 49ers. Shanahan, once again, I know there are people out there that are listening to Shanahan and going, what? Oh my God, Shanahan is giving up the season. No, I don't think he's giving up the season. I think he's just being honest that it's a rebuild, but with 7 stars. And yeah, they're going to try to lean on those stars as much as they can, but it's still very much a rebuild. So it's a rebuild with 7 stars with guys like Ayuk and some other guys like Givens and other Watkins potentially coming back after the start of the season. So I think there's reason to believe that this 49er team will have the ability to get better as they go, because I think, if their coaching staff can coach up their young talents, I think there may be as many as, if just looking at the Niners, how many rookies do you think make this team? I did my 53-man roster breakdown today, and I had Jordan Watkins and Junior Bergen, Connor Colby, Andrew Moss. I had Corey Kiner. Obviously, Curtis Rourke is going to be part of this team. He's in a developmental year. That's 6 rookies right there. I have Jordan James sticking around. So that's 7 rookies. And then Valdez is 8. Collins is 9. West is 10. Williams is 11. Martin is 12. And then Jacob Robinson and Marquise Siegel and Upton Stout, that's 15. Stone Blanton, 16. I mean, I think they're going to have 15, 16 rookies. This is going to be their volume class for sure. So I think it's fair and refreshing for Shanahan to say, you know what? We got 7 great players, but it's a rebuild year besides that. We want to keep getting better and better and better, and we want to make the playoffs. I think that's totally reasonable. That to me is the goal of the year. You got a lot of young players, coach them up, get better and better and better, get better as the season goes on, make the playoffs. And who knows, when you get there, maybe you can make something happen. I wouldn't hold it against the Niners to, if they get to the playoffs, I think they got a great chance to win a game or two. But yeah, this is the year where you got 2 real goals for the year. Develop your roster, find some future blue chippers and future foundation pieces, and make the playoffs. Does that mean 13-4 and rampaging? No. It might mean 10-7. It might mean 11-6. Just get in. Develop your players, find some future players, build your core out, and make the playoffs. And I think it's a reasonable expectation, and I love that Shanahan was candid about it. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to our good friends at Sharp Corners, Sports Cards, and Collectibles. Anthony Catania's at 831-521-5264. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.